Have you ever promised yourself, this is the last time? The last cigarette? The last time you'd stay up until 2 in the morning? The last hour you'd waste scrolling on your phone? The last unhealthy meal? The last excuse? You meant it. You weren't lying to yourself. But somehow, days later, you were doing it again. Why? Why is it so easy to build a bad habit and so unbelievably hard to leave it behind? Most people blame themselves. They think they're weak, lazy, undisciplined. But what if none of that is true? What if the real problem isn't your willpower, but the way your brain was designed to keep you alive? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why bad habits keep coming back, why simply trying harder almost never works, and what your brain actually needs before lasting change becomes possible. The first thing you need to understand is this: your brain never creates a habit by accident. Every habit begins as a solution, not to your future, to your present. Think about the last time you reached for your phone without thinking. Were you really interested in checking notifications? Or were you simply bored? Maybe you were anxious, lonely, stressed, uncomfortable sitting alone with your thoughts. The phone wasn't the goal. Relief was. The same thing happens with almost every bad habit. People don't smoke because they enjoy damaging their lungs. They smoke because, at some point, smoking made stress feel smaller. People don't overeat because they're hungry every time. They eat because food temporarily changes how they feel. People don't procrastinate because they love deadlines. They procrastinate because avoiding the task feels less painful than facing it. Your brain isn't chasing bad habits. It's chasing relief. And once it discovers something that works, it remembers. That's one of the brain's greatest strengths. It's also one of its biggest weaknesses. Every time a behavior successfully reduces stress, boredom, fear, or discomfort, your brain quietly makes a note. Remember this. We might need it again. The next time that same emotion appears, your brain doesn't stop to ask if the habit is healthy. It only asks one question. Did this work before? If the answer is yes, the habit returns. This is why so many people feel trapped. They think they're fighting a behavior. In reality, they're fighting a survival strategy their own brain created years ago. Now, here's where most people make their biggest mistake. They believe breaking a habit is all about willpower. So, they wake up one morning and make a promise. No more. No more sugar. No more social media. No more gambling. No more late nights. For a while, everything goes well. Then life gets stressful. Work becomes overwhelming. An argument happens. Sleep gets worse. And suddenly, the habit comes back. Not because you failed. Because willpower was never designed to win every battle. Willpower is like a phone battery. You wake up with plenty of it. Every difficult decision drains it. Every temptation drains it. Every stressful situation drains it. By the end of the day, there isn't much left. Habits don't have that problem. They don't ask permission. They don't wait for motivation. They don't negotiate. They simply run. That's exactly why habits feel automatic. Your brain loves efficiency. Anything you repeat often enough gets moved from conscious effort to automatic behavior. Imagine learning to drive for the first time. At the beginning, every movement demands attention. Mirrors, pedals, steering, traffic. Everything feels difficult. But after years of driving, you can arrive home without remembering most of the trip. The skill became automatic. Habits work the same way. The more often your brain repeats a behavior, the less energy it needs to perform it. That's incredibly useful for brushing your teeth, driving a car, making coffee. But it's equally powerful when the habit is checking your phone every 5 minutes, or eating whenever you're stressed. Your brain doesn't judge, it automates. Scientists call this a habit loop. First comes the cue. Something triggers your brain. A plus, a smell, a time of day, an emotion. Then comes the behavior. Finally comes the reward. Not necessarily happiness, simply relief. Once that loop repeats enough times, your brain starts predicting the reward before it even arrives. That's when habits become incredibly difficult to resist. Not because you're weak, because your brain has already decided what's about to happen before you're fully aware of making the choice. If you're enjoying this deeper look into how your brain really works, subscribe to Mr. No Excuses. Every week, we explore the psychology behind better decisions, stronger habits, and a stronger mind. Because once you understand your brain, you stop fighting yourself and start changing yourself the right way. Here's something even more surprising. The chemical most people blame for bad habits is also the reason you can build good ones. It's called dopamine. And contrary to popular belief, dopamine isn't simply the chemical of pleasure. It's the chemical of expectation. It teaches your brain what matters and what should be repeated. Think about the sound of a notification. Before you even look at your phone, your brain has already predicted what might be waiting for you. Un message, a like, a surprise. That tiny moment of anticipation is enough to make you reach for it. The reward doesn't even have to arrive. The expectation alone can trigger the behavior. That's why so many habits feel impossible to escape. You're not chasing the reward anymore. You're chasing the possibility of the reward. And your brain loves possibilities. But here's the good news. The same brain that built a bad habit can build a better one. Not by deleting the old habit, by creating a stronger alternative. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about behavior change. People think they need to erase a habit. Your brain doesn't work like a computer. There is no delete button. The old pathway doesn't simply disappear. It becomes weaker only when a new pathway is used more often. Imagine walking through a forest. The first path is wide and easy because you've walked it thousands of times. Now imagine trying to create a new path. At first it's slow, messy, uncomfortable. You have to push through branches, watch every step. It feels unnatural. But if you keep choosing that path, day after day, it slowly becomes easier. Meanwhile, the old path begins to fade from lack of use. This is exactly how your brain changes. Not by forgetting the past, by practicing a different future. That's why replacing a habit works far better than simply trying to stop one. If stress makes you reach for your phone, don't just hide the phone. Replace the moment. Take a short walk. Write one sentence in a journal. Drink a glass of water. Take 5 slow breaths. Give your brain another way to solve the same problem. Because remember, the habit wasn't created for no reason. It was solving something. If you don't replace that solution, your brain will eventually return to the old one. Your environment matters just as much, maybe even more than your motivation. People love believing they're completely in control, but your surroundings quietly shape thousands of decisions every day. If cookies are sitting on the kitchen counter, you're more likely to eat them. If your phone is beside your bed, you're more likely to scroll late into the night. If your running shoes are already waiting by the front door, you're far more likely to go outside. Your environment is constantly giving your brain instructions. The fewer bad cues your brain sees, the fewer battles your willpower has to fight. That's why major life changes often create surprising opportunities. Moving to a new city, starting a new job, beginning a new semester, changing your daily schedule, suddenly, the old cues disappear. The old routines lose their grip. Your brain becomes more open to building something new. You're no longer trapped inside yesterday's patterns. But even then, lasting change isn't really about behavior. It's about identity. Most people say, I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to stop procrastinating. I'm trying to eat healthier. Listen carefully to those words. Trying, the old identity is still in charge. Instead, ask yourself a different question. Who is the kind of person that doesn't need this habit anymore? A healthy person doesn't wake up every morning fighting cigarettes. A focused person doesn't rely on endless scrolling to escape boredom. A disciplined person isn't constantly negotiating with yesterday's excuses. They simply live according to who they've become. Every small action is a vote for that identity. Every time you choose the healthier meal, you cast a vote. Every time you close the app instead of opening it, another vote. Every workout, every page you read, every promise you keep to yourself, another vote. No single vote changes your life overnight, but together, they slowly change the person making the decisions. If you've been struggling to quit a habit that keeps coming back, tell me in the comments. What's the one habit you're working to replace this year? Someone reading your answer might realize they're not fighting alone. And if you're ready to understand the psychology behind lasting self-control, instead of relying on motivation alone, subscribe to Mr. No Excuses. Every week, we explore how your brain shapes your choices and how small changes in thinking can transform the direction of your life. Cold truth. You don't repeat bad habits because you enjoy hurting yourself. You repeat them because your brain still believes they solve a problem. The day you give your brain a better solution is the day the old habit finally begins to lose its power.